Krelnax adjusted his ceremonial collar as he entered the grand chamber of the Galactic Council station. The station orbited Meridian Prime, a neutral world that belonged to no species but served all. His 4 eyes scanned the room with the practiced ease of a diplomat who had served the Vethrian Empire for 60 cycles. Around him, representatives from 100 worlds gathered, their forms as diverse as the stars themselves. He found his designated seat and settled his insectoid body into the specialized chair. Today's session would be routine, he thought. Trade agreements, border disputes, the usual tedious matters that kept the galaxy spinning. He pulled up his data tablet and began reviewing the agenda. The Council recognizes Ambassador Ben Harper of Earth, the speaker announced. Krelnax's antenna twitched with mild interest. The humans. Such a young species, barely 50 years since they had discovered faster-than-light travel. They were primitive by galactic standards, though they had somehow managed to secure a seat on the Council through their persistent diplomacy and their surprisingly advanced technology. Still, Krelnax found them crude. They ate with their mouths, for one thing. Barbaric. Ben Harper stood, his bipedal form shorter than most species in the chamber. He wore a simple dark suit, which Krelnax found laughably plain compared to the elaborate robes and garments of truly civilized races. "Thank you, honored speaker," Ben said in perfect galactic common. "I bring news from the frontier territories. Our colony on Epsilon Station detected an approaching fleet. The signature matches the Kryn horde." The chamber erupted in alarmed chittering, buzzing, and vocal expressions of concern. Krelnax felt his own hearts quicken. The Kryn horde. 300 years of terror across the Outer Rim. No one defeated the Kryn. They conquered, enslaved, and destroyed. They had crushed 7 coalition members in the past century alone. "Order," the speaker called. "How many ships?" A woman in a military uniform stood beside Ben. Her nameplate read, Captain Lisa Warren. She activated a holographic display that showed the approaching fleet. 35 raiders, including 3 carriers. They will reach Epsilon Station in 48 hours. The station has 400,000 civilians. The council dissolved into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, proposing diplomatic channels, suggesting evacuation protocols, debating whether to send a delegation to negotiate. Krelnax listened to the familiar dance of words. This was how civilized species handled conflict. Through discussion, through measured response, through careful calculation of acceptable losses. A voice cut through the noise, calm and clear. The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the source. A human male in a crisp military uniform stood beside Captain Warren. His insignia marked him as Commander Jake Morrison. "I beg your pardon," the speaker said. "The human fleet will intercept the Kryn before they reach Epsilon Station," Jake said simply. "We have 12 ships in range. They'll be enough." Aided 7. Krelnax felt a rush of something between amusement and pity. 12 ships against 35 Kryn raiders? The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. He suspected the latter. "Commander Morrison," the speaker said carefully, "perhaps you do not understand the Kryn threat. They have never been defeated in open battle." "Then it's about time someone changed that," Jake replied. Ben Harper stepped forward. "The human government has authorized military action. We're not asking for permission. We're informing the council as a courtesy." The chamber erupted again, this time with protests and concerns about reckless action. Krelnax watched the humans with growing curiosity. They showed no fear, no hesitation. Either they were supremely confident, or they didn't understand what they were facing. After the session ended, Krelnax found himself approached by a council aide. "Ambassador Krelnax, the High Counselor, requests your presence." Minutes later, Krelnax stood in a private chamber with the High Counselor Vextar, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form. "Krelnax, your species has extensive experience documenting military conflicts," Vextar said, their voice resonating through the crystal. We need an observer aboard a human vessel. Someone to document what happens when the humans engage the Kryn. You expect them to fail, Krelnak said. We expect the worst. The humans are new to the galaxy. They don't understand what they face. When they fail, we need documentation for future species who might make similar mistakes. Will you go? Krelnax considered. The assignment was likely a death sentence, but it was also an opportunity. If he survived, his report would be studied for centuries. His name would be remembered. I accept, he said. 2 hours later, Krelnax found himself in a shuttle heading toward the human fleet. The vessel was functional, but lacked the artistic touches that Vethrian ships possessed. Everything was designed for efficiency rather than beauty. How typical of these young species. The shuttle docked with the USS Defiance, a warship that looked more like a weapon than a vessel. Angular, aggressive, covered in armor plating and weapon emplacements, a far cry from the elegant curves of Vethrian cruisers. Captain Lisa Warren met him in the docking bay. She was young by human standards, perhaps 40 cycles, with dark hair pulled back in a severe style. Her uniform was immaculate. Ambassador Krelnax, welcome aboard, she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Krelnax awkwardly touched it with one of his forearms. Thank you, Captain. I am here to observe and document your engagement with the Kryn. Understood. I've assigned quarters for you. We'll be underway in 30 minutes. The mess hall serves food compatible with Vethrian biology, and you'll have access to most of the ship except secured areas. When do you expect to engage the enemy? Krelnax asked. Lisa checked a device on her wrist. 14 hours. We'll intercept them 3 hours before they reach Epsilon Station. And your strategy? Lisa smiled, and Krelnax found the expression unsettling. It wasn't friendly. It was the smile of a predator. We're going to hurt them, she said simply. We're going to hurt them so badly they'll never forget it. Then we're going to send the survivors home to tell everyone what happens when you attack human colonies. Krelnax felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. These humans spoke of war with a casualness that disturbed him, as if violence was as natural as breathing. I see, he said quietly. Get some rest, Ambassador, Lisa said. Tomorrow's going to be intense. You might want to secure yourself somewhere safe during the battle. It's going to get rough. As Krelnax was escorted to his quarters, he began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. The humans didn't act like any species he had encountered before. They didn't show fear. They didn't show doubt. They showed something worse. They showed anticipation. In his quarters, Krelnax activated his recording device and began his first log entry. This is Ambassador Krelnax, official observer for the Galactic Council. I am aboard the human vessel, USS Defiance. Initial observations. The humans appear calm before battle. Too calm. They either possess supreme confidence or are in denial about their situation. In 14 hours, we will engage the Kryn horde. I estimate a 70% chance. This will be my final entry. He paused the recording and looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kryn fleet was coming, and these strange, young humans were rushing to meet them. For the first time in his long career, Krelnax felt truly afraid. Not of the Kryn, of what he might witness tomorrow. Krelnax spent the first hour aboard the USS Defiance, exploring the sections he was allowed to access. The ship hummed with activity. But it was organized activity. Crew members moved with purpose through the corridors, their faces calm and focused. No one ran. No one shouted. It was nothing like what he expected before a major battle. In Vethrian tradition, warriors spent days before combat in meditation and ritual preparation. The Zelthans sang death songs. The Mordax engaged in elaborate combat dances. But these humans simply worked. They checked equipment, ran diagnostics, reviewed tactical displays. It was all so mundane. He found himself in the ship's dining area. A human woman, in a white coat with medical insignia, sat at a table, reviewing data on a tablet while eating something that looked unpleasant. She noticed him and smiled. Ambassador Krell-Nax, right? I'm Dr. Sophie Martinez, Chief Medical Officer. Please, sit, if you'd like. Krell-Nax settled into a chair across from her. You are the ship's healer? That's one way to put it, yes. Sophie took a sip of dark liquid from a cup. First time aboard a human warship? First time aboard any warship entering combat, Krell-Nax admitted. Your crew seems remarkably calm. Sophie glanced around the mess hall. Other crew members sat in small groups, talking quietly, some laughing at shared jokes. They're professionals. Most of them have seen combat before. This isn't their first battle, but the Kryn have never been defeated. There's a first time for everything. Sophie set down her tablet. You seem nervous, Ambassador. That's understandable, but you should know that human crews train for years before they see real combat. Captain Warren has been in the military for 22 years. Our tactical officer, Ryan Beck, has commanded engagements on 6 different fronts. These people know what they're doing. How long have you been in military service? Krell-Nax asked. 15 years. I've patched up more wounded than I can count. Sophie's expression grew serious. I won't lie to you, Ambassador. People will probably die tomorrow. That's the reality of combat. But we're very good at what we do. The Kryn are about to learn that humans don't give up our people without a fight. A young woman in combat armor approached their table. She was compact and muscular, with scars visible on her forearms. Doc, medical team is ready for pre-battle briefing. Whenever you are. Thanks, Kate. I'll be there in 5. Sophie turned to Krell-Nax. This is Sergeant Kate Collins, Marine Squad Leader. Kate, this is Ambassador Krell-Nax. He's observing the engagement. Kate nodded at him. Ambassador, stick close to protected areas during the fight. Marines will be busy with boarding actions, so we can't babysit observers. Boarding actions? Krell-Nax felt his antenna flatten against his head in alarm. You plan to board Kryn ships? Of course, Kate said, as if this was obvious. Disabled ships need to be secured. Enemy crew needs to be neutralized. Standard procedure. But that's barbaric. Civilized species don't engage in close combat anymore. Kate's expression didn't change. Then, I guess we're not civilized. Excuse me, I've got a briefing to attend. She walked away, and Krell-Nax turned to Sophie with confusion. Kate's been a Marine for 8 years. She's 26 years old. She joined when she was 18, which is barely an adult by our standards. Fighting is what she knows. Your species begins military training so young? Some volunteer young, yes. We have military academies that start training at age 18. But human history goes back much further than that. We've been fighting wars for 10,000 years. Maybe longer. Krell-Nax felt something cold settle in his stomach. 10,000 years of continuous warfare? Give or take, we've gotten very good at it. Sophie stood up. I need to get to my briefing. Try to get some rest, Ambassador. Tomorrow will be a long day. After Sophie left, Krell-Nax sat alone in the mess hall, processing what he had learned. 10,000 years of warfare. The Vethrian Empire had been at peace for 5,000 years, with only occasional border skirmishes. These humans had spent twice that long perfecting the art of killing. He made his way to the observation deck, where several crew members stood watching the stars. A man in a tactical officer's uniform noticed him and approached. Ambassador Krell-Nax? I'm Lieutenant Commander Ryan Beck, Tactical Officer. Captain Warren asked me to give you a briefing if you were interested in understanding our battle plan. No. No. Yes, that would be helpful. Ryan activated a holographic display showing the projected battlefield. Red markers indicated the Kryn fleet. Blue markers showed human ships. The Kryn are using a standard raider formation, 3 carriers in the center, protected by lighter ships on all sides. They'll expect us to engage at maximum range, exchange fire, try to wear each other down. That's how most species fight. And humans don't fight that way? No, sir. We close distance fast. We hit hard. We don't give them time to adjust their tactics. Ryan pointed to the human ship positions. We'll split into 3 groups. 4 ships will draw their attention with a frontal assault. 4 more will flank from their port side. The remaining 4, including the Defiance, will come in from above their formation. You're attacking from 3 directions simultaneously. Krelnax studied the display. That requires precise coordination. We drill these maneuvers constantly. Every human fleet captain knows these formations. We can coordinate without much communication because we all train the same way. But you're outnumbered nearly 3 to 1. Ryan smiled. And like Captain Warren's smile, it wasn't friendly. Ambassador, humans have won battles against worse odds. 3 to 1 is actually pretty good for us. We've won fights at 10 to 1 odds before. That's impossible. No, sir. Just improbable. There's a difference. Ryan closed the holographic display. The Kryn are good fighters individually. They're strong, aggressive, fearless, but they don't coordinate well. Each ship operates almost independently. They're raiders, not a true military fleet. We'll exploit that weakness. And if your plan fails, then we adapt. Humans are good at adapting. It's one of our strengths. We can change tactics mid-battle faster than most species can process what's happening. 2. Though. 2. Though. 2. 2. Krelnax left the observation deck and wandered through more of the ship. He passed the armory, where Marines were checking weapons that looked brutal and efficient. He saw the fighter bay, where small attack craft were being loaded with missiles. He passed engineering, where crew members worked on the ship's massive engines. Everything was ready. Everything was efficient. These humans had turned warfare into a science. He returned to his quarters and made another recording. Second log entry. I have spent several hours observing the human crew. Initial assessment. They are not in denial. They understand exactly what they face tomorrow. But they show no fear. I have learned that humans have been engaged in continuous warfare for 10,000 years. This is not a species that occasionally fights. This is a species that has fighting coded into their very culture. The crew members I spoke with have years of combat experience, despite their young ages. They train constantly. They prepare obsessively. And most disturbing, they seem to view boarding actions and close combat as normal tactics. The Vethrian Empire abandoned such practices 5,000 years ago as too brutal. These humans embrace it. I am beginning to understand that my initial assessment was wrong. These humans are not brave fools. They are something much more dangerous. They are experienced predators. I find myself hoping the Kryn retreat before engaging. Not for humanity's sake, for the Kryn's sake. He ended the recording and tried to rest, but sleep would not come. Outside his window, the stars streaked by as the human fleet raced toward the coming battle. In a few hours, he would witness something that would change his understanding of warfare forever. The ship's intercom activated. Captain Warren's voice filled every corridor. All hands. This is the captain. We are 6 hours from intercept. All personnel to battle stations in 5 hours. This is not a drill. Warren out. The announcement was simple, direct, without drama. Just stating facts. Krelnax realized that was how humans approached everything about warfare. No ceremony, no elaborate ritual, just cold, efficient preparation. He finally understood why the other council members had been concerned. Not because humans would lose, because humans might win. Krelnax stood in a protected observation room adjacent to the bridge. Through reinforced glass, he could see Captain Warren in her command chair, surrounded by displays and crew members at various stations. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of equipment and the occasional status report. Kryn fleet detected, announced a young woman at communications. Her nameplate read Ensign Megan Torres. Range, 2 million kilometers. They're holding formation. All ships report ready, Captain, said Commander Alex Chen, the executive officer. Lisa Warren sat perfectly still in her chair, hands resting on the armrests. Her voice was calm and level. Helm. Execute approach, Vector Theta 9. All ships, follow our lead. Weapons, arm all missile batteries. Prepare railguns. Aye, Captain, responded Lieutenant Chris Palmer at the helm. The ship began to accelerate. Krell-Nax watched the tactical display. The 12 human ships were splitting into 3 groups, just as Ryan Beck had described. The Kryn fleet maintained its standard defensive formation, probably assuming the humans would engage at long range. Range, 1 million kilometers, Megan reported. They're hailing us, Captain, said Ryan Beck from the tactical station. Standard raider demand for surrender. Ignore it, Lisa said. Maintain course and speed. The human ships continued to accelerate. Krell-Nax felt his heart's pounding. The humans were rushing toward the enemy fleet at incredible speed. Most species would slow down at this range, begin firing carefully aimed shots, test the enemy's defenses. Not humans. 500,000 kilometers. Kryn ships are moving to intercept. Now, Lisa said simply. The bridge lights dimmed as energy was redirected to weapons and shields. The USS Defiance suddenly changed direction, angling up and over the Kryn formation. The other human ships executed their own maneuvers with perfect coordination. The Kryn fleet, expecting a traditional engagement, found themselves suddenly facing attacks from 3 directions. Fire at will, Lisa ordered. The ship shuddered as railguns fired. Solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds, hammered into the Kryn vessels. Missiles streaked across space, trails of fire visible against the darkness. The other human ships were firing too. A coordinated assault that caught the Kryn completely off guard. Direct hits on Carriers 2 and 3, Ryan reported, his voice still calm. Carrier 2 has lost shields. Carrier 3 is venting atmosphere. Target Carrier 2 with missile barrage. Railguns focus on their escorts. Explosions bloomed in space as human weapons found their targets. The Kryn were firing back now, their energy weapons tearing through space. The USS Defiance rocked as an energy beam struck their shields. Shields at 70%, Ryan reported. Evasive maneuvers. Keep us moving, Lisa said to Chris at the helm. The ship twisted and turned, never staying in one position long enough to be an easy target. Krell-Nax grabbed onto a support rail as the ship's gravity compensators struggled to keep up with the violent movements. USS Guardian is taking heavy fire, Megan reported, tension creeping into her voice for the first time. Their shields are failing. Tell Guardian to fall back, Lisa ordered. USS Defiance and USS Valiant will cover their withdrawal. On the tactical display, Krell-Nax watched as the USS Guardian, trailing fire and debris, tried to pull away from the battle. But 3 Kryn raiders had focused on the wounded ship, sensing an easy kill. Guardian is reporting critical damage, Megan said. Engineering is gone. Life support failing. They're evacuating to escape pods. All ships, concentrate fire on the raiders attacking Guardian, Lisa commanded. Get those people out of there. The human fleet shifted its focus. Missiles and railgun fire converged on the 3 Kryn raiders. 2 were destroyed almost instantly. The third tried to flee but exploded as a railgun round tore through its engines. Guardian's crew is away, Megan reported. But the ship is on a collision course with the Kryn carrier. Krell-Nax watched in horror as the crippled human ship, now empty of crew, continued its trajectory toward the massive Kryn carrier. The carrier tried to maneuver away, but it was too large, too slow. The USS Guardian slammed into the carrier's side at tremendous speed. The explosion was massive. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire and debris. When the explosion cleared, the Kryn carrier was gone. So were two nearby escort ships that had been caught in the blast. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Lisa spoke, her voice harder than before. Guardian's crew gave us an opening. Don't waste it. All ships, press the attack. The human fleet surged forward with renewed aggression. Krelnax realized what he was seeing. The sacrifice of the Guardian hadn't broken the humans' will. It had made them angry. Enemy formation is breaking down, Ryan reported. They're losing cohesion. Ryan. The Kryn raiders, so confident before, were now in disarray. The humans had destroyed their flagship and killed their command structure. Individual Kryn ships were fighting independently now, without coordination, and the humans were exploiting every weakness. Boarding teams away, Lisa ordered. Kate, your Marines are clear for assault. Through the observation window, Krelnax saw armored figures launching from the human ships in small assault craft. They crossed the space between ships at incredible speed. Attaching to disabled Kryn vessels, explosive charges blew holes in the hulls, and the Marines poured inside. Marines have breached 3 enemy ships, Ryan reported, encountering heavy resistance on target Alpha, light resistance on targets Beta and Gamma. Krelnax accessed a tactical feed and watched in disbelief. The Marines moved through the Kryn ships like a force of nature. The Kryn were larger, stronger individually, but the humans fought as perfect teams. They covered each other, moved in coordinated patterns, used tactics that the Kryn couldn't counter. A Kryn warrior would charge at a Marine, only to be shot by that Marine's companion. 2 Kryn would try to attack from different directions, but the Marine team would shift formations smoothly, covering all angles. It was like watching a machine operate, not individual beings fighting. Target Alpha is secured, Ryan announced. Marines report 43 enemy casualties, 2 prisoners. Our casualties, 5 wounded, none killed. Target Beta secured. No enemy survivors. They fought to the last. Our casualties, 3. Wounded. Target Gamma secured. Enemy crew surrendered. 72 prisoners. Our casualties, 1 Marine, with minor injuries. Captain, the Kryn fleet is retreating, Megan said, her voice filled with surprise. All remaining ships are breaking off and running. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. How many are left? 17 ships, ma'am. We destroyed or disabled 18. They're jumping to FTL. They're gone. The bridge remained silent. Then Alex Chen spoke quietly. Battle duration, 38 minutes. Lisa stood up from her command chair. Status report. All ships, casualties, and damage. The reports came in from the 12 human ships. The USS Guardian was gone, its crew safe in escape pods. Every other ship had taken damage, some severe, but they were all still operational. Total casualties across the fleet. Alex read from his display. 147 dead. 312 wounded. Ship losses. 1 total loss. 3 ships requiring major repairs. Krelnax did rapid calculations. 147 dead. The humans had destroyed 18 Kryn ships. Kryn crews, numbered around 800 per vessel. That meant the Kryn had lost over 14,000 warriors. The humans had won at nearly a 100-to-1 kill ratio. Secure from battle stations, Lisa ordered. Search and rescue teams, recover all Guardian crew. Medical teams, prepare to receive wounded. Alex, you have the bridge. I'm going to check on our people. She left the bridge, and Krelnax found himself alone with the remaining crew. They were already shifting from combat mode to recovery mode, efficiently handling the aftermath of battle. Ryan Beck noticed him watching and walked over. Well, Ambassador? That's how humans fight. Krelnax couldn't speak. His translator was working, but his mind couldn't form words. He had just watched these young, primitive humans utterly destroy an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 centuries. And they had made it look easy. The Kryn have never retreated before, Krelnax finally managed to say. They have now, Ryan replied. And every raider who survived will tell others what happened here. Word will spread. That's the point. The point? We didn't just defeat the Kryn today, Ambassador. We sent a message to every hostile force in this sector. Leave human colonies alone, or this is what happens. We protect our own. Krell looked out at the debris field that had been a Kryn fleet. Among the wreckage, human rescue ships were already searching for Guardian's crew, bringing them to safety. For the first time, Krell understood humanity's galactic renown wasn't going to be built on diplomacy, or trade, or cultural exchange. It was going to be built on this. On battlefields. On the broken remains of those foolish enough to threaten them, and the galaxy would never be the same. The medical bay was organized chaos. Wounded crew members lay on beds, while doctors and nurses moved between them with practiced efficiency. The air smelled of antiseptic and something else. Something Krell couldn't identify. Pain, perhaps, or determination. Dr. Sophie Martinez stood at a central station, directing her team with calm precision. Her white coat was stained with blood, both red human blood and the purple blood of Kryn prisoners they were also treating. She noticed Krell enter and nodded in acknowledgement, but didn't stop working. Bed 7 needs another unit of plasma. She called out, Bed 12 is ready for surgery. Someone check on the Kryn prisoners in Isolation Ward B. Make sure their wounds are properly cleaned. Krell watched a young nurse, barely out of training by the look of her, calmly inserting a tube into a wounded Marine's arm. The Marine's face was pale and covered in sweat. But he didn't cry out. He simply stared at the ceiling, breathing slowly and deliberately. You're doing great, Danny, the nurse said softly. Painkiller is kicking in now. You'll feel better in a minute. Thanks, Chris, the Marine mumbled. Did we get them all? The colonists. Are they safe? Kryn fleet retreated. Colony is secure. You did good. The Marine smiled slightly and closed his eyes. Krell moved deeper into the medical bay. In one corner, he saw Sergeant Kate Collins sitting on a bed while a medic wrapped her arm in bandages. Her face was bruised, and dried blood matted her hair on one side. She had several pieces of shrapnel scattered on a metal tray beside her. Ambassador, she said when she noticed him. Come to see how the barbarians handle their wounded? I did not mean offense earlier, Krell said carefully. None taken. We are kind of barbaric by galactic standards, I guess. But it works. She winced as the medic tightened the bandage. Lost 3 people from my squad today. Good Marines. Danny made it, though. The Marine in bed 7? Yeah. Took a plasma bolt to the chest. Should have killed him. But humans are tough. He'll live. Might be in physical therapy for a year, but he'll live. How do you cope with losing your squad members? Kate was silent for a moment. You remember them. You make sure their families know they died protecting people. And then you keep going. Because that's the job. We volunteered for this. We knew the risks. Do you ever regret it? Becoming a Marine? Every time someone dies, Kate said quietly. But then I think about those 400,000 people on Epsilon Station. They're alive. Because we were here. Because we stopped the Kryn. So no, I don't regret it. I'd do it again tomorrow. The medic finished with Kate's arm and moved to work on the cuts on her head. Krell noticed her hands were steady, not shaking, despite the trauma she had experienced. You were in close combat with the Kryn, Krell said. They are much larger than humans. Size isn't everything in a fight. Training is. Teamwork is. We train for years to work as a unit. Every Marine knows what every other Marine is going to do before they do it. The Kryn fight as individuals. They're strong, aggressive, fearless, but they don't coordinate. We do. That makes all the difference. A commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Sophie was rushing to meet a stretcher being wheeled in. On it lay a young Marine, both legs wrapped in emergency bandages soaked through with blood. Luke Anderson, 19 years old. The medic pushing the stretcher reported rapidly. Explosive breach accident during boarding? Both legs are gone. He's stable but in shock. Sophie immediately began directing her team. Operating room 2. Now. Get me a surgical team. Someone notify his family. They rushed the stretcher away. Krell-Nax felt something twist inside him. 19 years old. Barely more than a child. An hour later, after speaking with several other wounded crew members, Krell-Nax found himself outside the recovery room where Luke Anderson had been taken. Sophie emerged, pulling off surgical gloves. "He'll live," she said before Krell-Nax could ask. "Probably even run. With good prosthetics. He's so young," Krell-Nax said. "Yes, he is. Too young, by most species standards. But he volunteered. He chose this life. And before you ask, no, we don't force anyone into military service. Every human in uniform chose to be here. Why? Why would someone so young choose this?" Sophie leaned against the wall, exhaustion showing on her face for the first time. "Because someone has to. Because there are threats in this galaxy. And if we don't face them, who will?" Luke joined because his grandfather was a Marine. He wanted to serve, to protect people, and today, he did. His team secured a cringe ship that was trying to target civilian evacuation shuttles. He saved lives. At the cost of his legs, yes. And if you ask him when he wakes up, if it was worth it, I guarantee he'll say yes. A voice spoke from inside the recovery room. "Doctor, permission to see the kid?" Sophie opened the door. Commander Jake Morrison stood there, still in his combat uniform, looking tired but determined. "5 minutes, Jake. He needs rest." Jake entered the room, and Sophie gestured for Krell-Nax to follow. Luke was awake, pale, and connected to various monitors. His eyes focused on Jake, with effort. "Commander, sir." Luke tried to salute, but his arm barely moved. "At ease, Marine. Don't salute from a hospital bed. It's bad luck." Jake pulled up a chair and sat beside the bed. "I heard what your team did. Disabled that raider before it could target the civilian ships. Good work." "Thank you, sir." "Did everyone else make it? My squad?" "Everyone made it. You took the worst of it. Your sergeant says you pushed a rookie out of the way when the breach charge went off wrong. Saved his life." Luke smiled weakly. "He's got a family. Wife and a kid. I'm single." Seemed like a simple choice. Krell-Nax felt something he hadn't expected. Respect. Deep, profound respect for this young human who had sacrificed his legs for a fellow Marine. Jake stood up. "The fleet's recommending you for a medal. Personally, I think you deserve two. Rest up, Marine. We need you back on your feet. Well, back on your new feet, anyway." Luke laughed, then winced at the pain. "Yes, sir. Looking forward to it." Outside the room, Krell-Nax stopped Jake. "Commander, I must ask, why do humans fight this way? So aggressively, with such willingness to sacrifice?" Jake looked at him for a long moment. "You want the simple answer or the complicated one?" "Both, perhaps." Simple answer. Because when we decide something is worth protecting, we protect it. No half measures, no acceptable losses. We protect it with everything we have. And the complicated answer? The complicated answer is that humans have been at war with each other for our entire history. Thousands of years of conflict. Nation against nation, tribe against tribe, sometimes family against family. We've developed warfare into a science. We've studied it, perfected it, written countless books about strategy and tactics. We've learned from every defeat, every victory, every mistake. And about 100 years ago, we almost destroyed ourselves completely. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, the works. We came so close to extinction that it terrified us, so we made a choice. We'd stop fighting each other and start preparing for threats from outside. And when we joined the galactic community and saw the Kryn, the raiders, the slavers, we knew our fears were justified. There are real threats out here. So we do what we've always done. We prepare. We train. We fight. But now we fight together, as one species, against common enemies. You're saying human internal conflicts prepared you for external ones? Exactly. We've been testing ourselves against ourselves for millennia. Now, we're testing ourselves against the galaxy. So far, we're doing okay. Sophie rejoined them. Jake, you should get some rest. You've been up for 30 hours. So have you, Doc. I'm not done yet. Still have wounded to check on. She looked at Krell Nax. Ambassador, I know this is difficult to watch. War is ugly. People get hurt. People die. But this is the reality of defending what matters. Those colonists on Epsilon Station are alive. That's what counts. Krell Nax made his way back to his quarters, his mind overwhelmed with everything he had witnessed. He activated his recording device for another log entry. Log entry 4. I have spent hours in the medical bay, speaking with wounded humans. I met a Marine who lost both legs, saving a comrade. He said he would do it again. I met a sergeant who lost 3 squad members, but showed no hesitation in continuing her duties. I spoke with a commander who explained that humanity's history of internal warfare prepared them for external threats. I am beginning to understand that humanity's galactic renown will not be based on fear, but on something more complex. These humans understand the cost of war better than any species I have encountered. They don't glorify it. They don't celebrate it, but they accept it as necessary, and they execute it with a precision and willingness to sacrifice that is both terrifying and admirable. They fight not for glory or conquest, but to protect. And they are willing to pay any price to do so. The galaxy has not seen anything like humanity before. I am not certain the galaxy is ready for them. He ended the recording and looked out his viewport at the stars. In 3 days, they would return to the council station. Krell Nax would have to make his report. He was no longer sure what he would say. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Epsilon Station. Krell Nax stood once again in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. But this time, he felt different. The chamber looked the same, with representatives from 100 worlds gathered in their designated seats. But everything had changed. The speaker called the session to order. The council recognizes Ambassador Krell Nax of the Vethrian Empire, who has completed his observation of the human military engagement with the Kryn horde. Ambassador, please present your findings. Krell Nax rose from his seat and moved to the central platform. Around him, hundreds of eyes watched with interest. Everyone had heard rumors about what happened at Epsilon Station. The Kryn had retreated. That alone was unprecedented. Honored council members, Krell Nax began, his voice steady and clear. I was assigned to observe the human fleet during their engagement with the Kryn horde. I was expected to document their failure. Instead, I witnessed something that will change how we understand warfare in this galaxy. He activated a holographic display showing the battle. The human fleet consisted of 12 ships. The Kryn brought 35 raiders, including 3 carriers. By every traditional calculation, the humans should have been destroyed. Instead, in 38 minutes, they destroyed or disabled 18 Kryn vessels. The remaining 17 retreated. This was the first time in 300 years that the Kryn horde has retreated from any engagement. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Krell Nax waited for silence before continuing. Human casualties were 147 dead and 312 wounded. Kryn casualties exceeded 14,000. The humans achieved nearly a 100-to-1 kill ratio. But these numbers alone do not tell the full story. He changed the display to show tactical analysis. The humans employ warfare strategies unlike anything we have encountered. They coordinate with precision. They adapt instantly to changing conditions. They use tactics that other species abandoned thousands of years ago as too brutal. such as boarding actions and close combat. But they execute these tactics with such efficiency that they become devastatingly effective. Ambassador, interrupted a Zeltha representative, are you suggesting the humans are simply more aggressive than other species? No, Krelnak said firmly. Aggression without purpose is just violence. The humans are purposeful. They fight to protect. Every action they take in combat is calculated to achieve their objective with maximum efficiency. They don't fight for glory or territory. They fight to defend what they value, and they are willing to pay any price to do so. He showed footage from the medical bay. I witnessed a 19-year-old Marine who lost both legs, saving a comrade. When asked if he regretted his choice, he said he would do it again. I spoke with a sergeant who lost 3 squad members, but continued her mission without hesitation. I watched crew members work calmly under fire, coordinating actions that would take other species hours to plan. This is not recklessness. This is training and dedication, refined over thousands of years of warfare. A Mordax counselor rose to speak. With respect, Ambassador, are you truly suggesting we should fear a species barely 50 years into space travel? Fear? No. Krelnax paused, choosing his words carefully. We should respect them. There is a difference. Since I submitted my initial report, 17 other species have requested copies of the battle footage. The Kryn Horde, which has not negotiated with anyone in 3 centuries, has requested a peace conference. Specifically with humans. The chamber fell completely silent. Furthermore, 3 species that have historically been hostile to coalition members have suddenly expressed interest in non-aggression pacts with human territories. The Valdori Collective, the Kresh Empire, and the Tarkin Swarm, all known for their aggressive expansion, are now seeking diplomatic relations with Earth. He changed the display to show diplomatic communication logs. In 3 weeks, humanity's reputation has shifted from primitive newcomers to do not engage unless absolutely necessary. This is not because humans are cruel or evil. It is because they are effective, lethally, efficiently effective. Ambassador Ben Harper stood in the human delegation area. If I may address the Council? The Council recognizes Ambassador Harper of Earth. Ben walked to join Krelnax on the central platform. Thank you, Ambassador Krelnax, for your thorough report. I understand that many of you are concerned about humanity's military capabilities. Those concerns are valid. We are dangerous. We have spent 10,000 years learning to be dangerous. We've perfected the art of warfare through countless conflicts, countless mistakes, countless lessons learned in blood. He looked around the chamber. But we're also the only species that spent the last 100 years trying to stop. We know what war costs. We've seen our cities burned, our people killed, our planet nearly destroyed. We understand the price of conflict better than any species in this chamber, because we've paid that price over and over again. Captain Lisa Warren stood and joined Ben on the platform. She was in full dress uniform, medals displayed on her chest. The battle at Epsilon Station was not about proving human superiority. It was about protecting 400,000 civilians. We lost 147 people doing that. 147 names that we will remember. That we will honor. That we will never forget. We don't celebrate their deaths. We mourn them, but we also understand they died protecting others, and that means something to us. A new voice spoke from the entrance to the chamber. They protected my family. Everyone turned to see a small group entering. They were civilians, wearing simple clothing, clearly not diplomats or officials. The speaker was a middle-aged woman, holding the hand of a young child. My name is Angela Price, she said, her voice shaking slightly but determined. I was living on Epsilon Station with my daughter when the Kryn attacked. We were evacuating when a Kryn raider broke through the defensive line. It was targeting our shuttle. We thought we were going to die. She paused, emotion clear in her voice. Then human Marines boarded that raider. They fought their way through it, disabled it, saved us. One of those Marines was a boy named Luke Anderson. He's 19 years old. He lost both his legs, saving his squad mate during that action. But because of him, because of all of them, my daughter is alive. 400,000 people are alive. The child beside her, no more than 6 years old, stepped forward. She was holding something. A small flower, preserved in clear material. "This is for the people who died protecting us," she said in a tiny voice. "My mommy says they were heroes." The chamber was absolutely silent. Krelnax felt his heart tighten. This was what he had tried to explain in his report. Humans didn't fight for abstract concepts. They fought for this. For children holding flowers. For mothers who wanted their daughters to live. The speaker cleared their throat, clearly moved. "Thank you, Miss Price. The council appreciates your testimony." After the civilians left, the council began debating. Species representatives argued back and forth about the implications of human military power. Some wanted restrictions. Others wanted protection treaties. The debate went on for hours. Finally, High Counselor Vextar called for order. "Ambassador Krelnax, you have observed the humans more closely than anyone in this chamber. What is your recommendation?" Krelnax stood again. "I recommend that we recognize humanity for what they are. The most effective military force in the coalition. Not the largest, not the most advanced in every technology, but the most effective. They should be given primary responsibility for coalition defense against aggressive external threats." "You trust them with that much power?" asked a skeptical counselor. "I trust them because they understand the cost of that power. I spent days aboard a human warship. I saw their wounded. I heard their stories. These are not beings who seek war. They are beings who know how to wage it when necessary. There is a profound difference." The vote was called. It took 3 hours of debate, but finally, the measure passed. Humanity would become the coalition's primary military force. They would be responsible for defending against external threats, with full authority to engage hostile forces. After the session ended, Krelnax found Captain Warren in a hallway. "Captain, I wanted to apologize for my initial assessment of your species. I was wrong." Lisa smiled slightly. "You weren't entirely wrong. We are dangerous. But dangerous isn't the same as evil. Sometimes dangerous is exactly what you need. I watched your Marines fight. I saw them protect civilians at the cost of their own lives. I don't understand how you train people to be so willing to sacrifice. We don't train them to sacrifice. We train them to protect. The sacrifice comes naturally when you care about what you're defending. Every Marine knows they're fighting for something bigger than themselves. That makes all the difference. Your species has earned galactic renown," Krelnax said. "But not the way I expected." "How did you expect? I thought humans would be feared." "Instead, you're respected. Feared by enemies. Perhaps. But respected by allies. That's a better reputation to have." Lisa nodded. "That's all we've ever wanted. We didn't come to the galaxy looking for fights. We came looking for friends. For partners. For a place among the stars. But we also came prepared to defend that place. Because human history taught us that peace is precious. And sometimes, you have to fight to preserve it." Krelnax watched as the human delegation departed, heading back to their ships. In a few months, human vessels would be patrolling. Coalition space, protecting colonies, deterring aggressors. The galaxy would never be the same. He returned to his quarters and made one final log entry. Final log. The Council has voted to make humanity the Coalition's primary military force. After spending weeks reviewing my observations, I believe this is the correct decision. Humanity brings something to the galaxy that we have lacked. The marriage of capability and restraint. They can destroy utterly. Yet they choose to protect instead. They understand war better than any species I have encountered, which is precisely why they try to avoid it. But when war comes, when there is no other choice, they wage it with a precision and determination that is unmatched. I watched humans march into battle against impossible odds. I saw them face an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. And I watched them win, not through cruelty or savagery, but through skill, coordination, and an unwavering commitment to protecting those who could not protect themselves. Humanity's galactic renown is now established. Not as conquerors, not as warmongers, but as protectors, as guardians, as the beings you call when there is no other option. I am grateful they chose to be our allies rather than our enemies. The galaxy is safer with humans in it. This is the final assessment of Ambassador Krell Nax, observer for the Galactic Council. End log. He deactivated the recording and looked out his window one last time. Human ships were visible in the distance, their running lights bright against the darkness of space. Seeing humans march into battle had taught him something profound. True strength wasn't about winning. It was about knowing when to fight, how to fight, and what you were fighting for. Humans understood all three. And that made them the most dangerous, most valuable, most respected species in the galaxy. The galaxy would remember Epsilon Station, not as a battle, but as the moment humanity proved what they were capable of. And more importantly, what they chose to do with that capability. Protect, always protect. That was humanity's gift to the stars.